Hello, Nathaniel Thompson. How did
Hello.
you feel about David Cronenberg's return to body horror, seen in last year's film Crimes of the Future?
Well, obviously, I was really looking forward to it. I think a lot of us were, but we were kind of curious because when they first showed it at Cannes, the word got out that it was this extreme shocker that was going to make Crash look like like a play school exercise or something, which of course turned out to be completely stupid. But yeah, I was really psyched because it had been a long time since Existence, which I think was the last really old school Cronenberg film. So it had a lot to live up to, and we'd seen a lot in between where you never knew what to expect. And a lot of folks hated films like, Cosmopolis, for example, and things like
Mhm.
that. Um, but as far as I'm concerned, I knew Cronenberg is always something to look forward to. And yeah, so I was very curious. And of course, the trailers also made us kind of think like, what the heck is this thing? So yeah, I think we're all on pins and needles before it came out.
And did you enjoy the movie?
I did. I actually, it took me a little while to go see it. It's the opening weekend. Of course, I started hearing the reactions, but I didn't get to see it till about a week after, and some friends were just like, "Yeah, what?" Um, so luckily, my expectations kind of got tempered. That it wasn't
Mm.
even remotely as extreme as people were saying it was. Um, but yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I mean, I think it's sort of on the end of things like Naked Lunch. It's definitely one that's going to grow on people, I think, over time. It's not something where you walk out going, "Oh my God, that was amazing."
Mhm.
Cronenberg at his best. You kind of have to chew on it a little bit, but let's let it kind of soak in a bit. I don't think it's perfect. I don't know why he called it Crimes of the Future. Honestly, that's kind of my main issue with it because that was one of his very first films before he went full on commercial with Shivers. But I think that kind of sets up an expectation that the movie doesn't even try to fill. So I think that was kind of a problem because people went in thinking, oh, it's going to be like Rabbit or The Brood or whatever because of that title, and
Mm.
that's not really what it is. But yeah, I actually did enjoy it a lot. I don't think it's perfect, but
Mhm.
yeah, I did like it, and it kind of it I'm sure I'm talking about the last few couple of years we've had what we call kind of like COVID movies where they kind of
Yeah.
feel disconnected, like nobody really stands close to each other. Everyone seems to be kind of like talking at it, everyone's like 10 feet apart through the whole movie. So it has that kind of vibe to it, where they shot it and everybody's kind of like disconnected. But with Cronenberg, it kind of works that way. Everyone's a little
Mhm.
bit distant and there's kind of this weird chilliness to it. And everyone's a little disconnected. So, it kind of works that way, whereas opposed to some other films that we've seen, it was obviously shot during COVID, but it doesn't, you feel like maybe it would have been better if they held off a little bit before they did it.
Interesting. I've never heard that say before. So we talked last year about Titan, which was
Mhm.
snubbed by the Academy, and David
Shocker.
Cronenberg is always snubbed by the Academy. And I'm wondering what's their beef with them?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, they've always been that way with horror films, with horror filmmakers in general. Like the year when George Romero and Toby Hooper died, it's like it was kind of like, oh well, we'll acknowledge one of them. So
Mm.
let's go with Romero. And it's like, come on, guys. It's like they both altered the cinematic landscape. Like, give me a break. They both deserve a spot. So yeah, it's like there has to be this sort of like this comfort level with that filmmaker. And God knows Cronenberg's tried. I mean, he certainly did some fairly mainstream stuff. I mean, The Fly won an Oscar, for example.
Mm.
But something like Dead Ringers, or I mean, and Butterfly was obviously kind of a prestige bait movie, which actually is my least favorite of his films, oddly
Same
enough.
here.
Yeah, it's like going around just like, oh, really, you have to go there.
It's fine,
Um,
but yeah.
yeah, it's fine, but it's just kind of silly. It's like
Yeah.
it's better on the stage. Just making a film just isn't a great idea. I mean, it
Mm.
has its touches. I love the score. It's got some bits that I like, but the
Mm.
more sort of Oscar baity he tried to get, like the less interesting I think he is. So maybe that's it. I just maybe he's just not a match for the Academy. I don't know.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm sure at some point they'll give him like a special honorary Oscar like they did David Lynch. It's like, okay, David Lynch, here's your Oscar. It's like because
Right.
it's so absurd. It's like, how does David Lynch not have some recognition? It's just got stupid. He's probably like our greatest living American director. It's like, what are you doing, guys? And Cronenberg is one of our greatest Canadian directors. So um, it's going to happen at some point, I guess.
Hopefully. They're
Yeah,
running out of time though. He's an older gentleman.
yeah, I know. They better hurry up. I mean, look at Hitchcock. I mean, they waited till the end of Hitchcock's life practically to give him an honorary Oscar. So he's in good company, I guess.
So I feel like there's a lot of concepts in this movie. It's
Mhm.
very like concept laden.
Yeah.
Uh and but just for me, I didn't necessarily understand or try to understand any of those things. It was just cool and weird.
Yeah.
So Is that how you experienced it too?
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, like I knew going in it was going to be sort of his concept on like, the art world and how it's sort of been, commodified and what it would be like, in this kind of environment, how well, because we don't really have a community where art really matters in like an artistic sense. Like you don't have people walking around anymore talking about the great painters who are alive today. It doesn't happen. So it's more about how it gets sort of absorbed into pop culture, which I thought was an interesting take. So yeah, I mean, there were some themes that I like, and I kind of enjoy watching things where I don't necessarily have to get everything they're saying the first time around. I mean, again, like I just mentioned, David Lynch is a good example. I mean, you sit through season 3 of Twin Peaks, and it's like I think I got about maybe 70% of it. I mean, some things that I'll never get, but I loved watching every second of. And Cronenberg's kind of like that in some of his films. Like watching Naked Lunch, I'm sure there are some references in Naked Lunch that I'll probably never understand as many times as I watch it, but that's fine. I don't need to. I just, I enjoy being in that world. I love the vibe that he creates. And I mean, it's not like, again, I don't think it's a perfect film. Like I'm still not entirely sure what the Kristen Stewart character was doing. Like it seems like that was sort of like curtailed, like there wasn't really a payoff there. But maybe I just kind of missed it. I'll have to go back in a couple of years and try it again, and maybe I'll be like, oh, that's what he was doing. So, I'm not saying it's his fault.
Interesting. I always love Howard Shore's scores for Cronenberg movies, and this one was pretty cool too. I was wondering, do you have a favorite one though? Howard Shore did for Cronenberg. Mine is going to be Crash.
I love Crash. Yeah, Crash is great. I mean, it kind of depends because you have like gorgeous Howard Shore, and then you have like weird Howard Shore. So it depends on the mood. I mean, I love the score for Dead Ringers. I think it's just incredibly beautiful. Really heartbreaking score. Yeah, I mean, I would say Crash is way up there for sure. A part of me almost wants to just say, because it was the first one that I ever heard, of Scanners, just because I'd never heard anything like that before. So that was the first Cronenberg that I went out of my way to see as a kid.
It's a very aggressive score.
Yeah, just this, I'd never heard that sound that it made. I was like, what is this? It was just so crazy. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's his best, but it's the one, like when I think Howard Shore Cronenberg, that one just pops right into my head. Just because it just kind of drilled into me as a little kid. So yeah, maybe Scanners is the one closest to my heart, but I think he's done better in other movies, sure.
It's funny. I've been watching a lot of Canadian films lately because I'm back in school doing film studies, and here in Canada we watch a lot of, in the film studies department they're going to emphasize Canadian cinema, and it's interesting. But I think Cronenberg is just so much better than all of it.
Yeah,
like generally speaking, right?
Yeah, I mean,
do you agree with me that he's like our best?
I think, I think he's probably the one who's had the biggest impact for sure. I mean, if you ask like, a lot of film critics are like, oh no, Agoyan is the best. And it's like, not anymore. But but yeah, I think Cronenberg's probably the most consistently brilliant. I mean, I think he's the one that's going to, when you look at the 20th century, I think he's like the Canadian director to beat. I mean, because people are still copying him, to this day. And now you got Brandon Cronenberg carrying the torch on now too, so that helps too.
Yeah. I still haven't seen an Infinity Pool. I'll get to it eventually. And we've got Jason Eisner too, who makes interesting movies. I haven't seen Kids versus Aliens. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I'll get to it eventually. For sure. Yeah, I think he's the one to beat, and Adam Agoyan is definitely like the other one to mention. For sure, he gets an honorable mention.
Yeah, he does. I bet it's like he's sort of in that, like, no one really imitates him. Like you don't really feel like the impact of his film sort of with younger filmmakers, whereas with Cronenberg, you really do. And I think it'll keep going forward. I mean, everybody still does body horror. I mean, A24 is like made a cottage industry out of it. I mean, look at Men, total Cronenberg, homage, all the way through. So, you can't get away from him.
I agree with that. And Titan, which we talked about last year.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah. Wins the Palme d'Or.
Yeah, I mean, in Japan, like South Korea, I mean, all these countries, Cronenberg's he's trickled into all of them,
Definitely, right? So, how would you rank Crimes of the Future for Viggo Mortensen performances in a Cronenberg movie? This is the fourth one.
Yeah,
that's Street Violence, Easter Promises,
right?
And then the time he played Freud in The Dangerous Method.
Yeah. I think History of Violence is always going to be my favorite one, but as far as like ranking them for excellent performances, this is probably like his most emotional performance. I love the way he plays the last scene. when he's actually realizing that he's becoming whatever the new flesh within the story. I love the look on his eyes. I think that's a powerful moment. He's really, really excellent. Yeah, I think Dangerous Method is probably the least because it's just sort of like
It's a
he's just
dull
saying his
movie.
lines. Yeah, he's just saying his lines in that. It's not a terribly challenging performance. But yeah, I think this is almost up there with History of Violence.
Nice. Eastern Promises, he got nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, I love Eastern Promises too.
Yeah.
It's tough. They're almost like three neck and neck ones. I don't know. It's almost a tie. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think it's just cool to see him finally do like a body horror for Cronenberg.
Yeah, for sure.
Like finally you can say that he's done it. Because History of Violence was when it came out, we were all talking about how it's like distinct within the body of work.
Yeah.
And certainly Eastern Promises and Dangerous Method is similar.
Yeah.
But so that's cool.
Yeah, and he fits right in. It's kind of funny seeing like which actors can do the Cronenberg body horror thing well. But he's in the tradition of like Jeff Goldblum and James Woods and those guys. Yeah, he does it really well actually. And I mean, I think Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law slip right into it. So yeah, I think he's definitely in that same tradition. He does it really nicely.
Nice. If you could do an audio commentary on one Cronenberg movie, which one would it be?
I did it. It was The Existence.
Oh, cool.
I'm on the British one for that. If I had to
Nice.
pick another one, so I think Existence is crazy underrated. I love that one.
I like that one a lot too.
It's really good. There's so much to chew on, and people get stuck on the video game thing. I'm like, it's kind of about a lot more than that. But
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to pick another one, I mean, obviously, I'd love to tackle The Brood someday. It's a rich film. I mean, you could just go on for hours about that one. I mean, I think Videodrome's been covered to death. I don't know what I could say that hasn't been said already. But obviously, one of my favorites. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say The Brood probably would be a fun one. I think there's a lot more that hasn't been said yet on that one.
Nice. So, do you think like the public has an appetite for a movie like this? Are we like entering a stage where it's just like this stuff is like going to be really on the back burner?
Well, I mean, they're obviously putting films like this in theaters. I mean, Infinity Pool is still playing in theaters, so
True.
Obviously somebody's paying to go see it. He's obviously not a ton of people. It's not drawing in like lines around the block, but clearly there's confidence that you can put these, at least as far as art house films go, you can still run these and get an audience. But then again, I remember when Naked Lunch came out, I had to drive pretty far to see it. I mean, it's not like that open wide. I mean, it's pretty rare you see something like The Fly that gets a big national release.
Oh yeah.
Most of his films don't. So they never really did have that kind of play. A lot of them really had to kind of find their audience later through like home video or cable, things like that. So we'll see. I mean, again, it's I think Videodrome kind of predicted it. It's like everyone's going to sort of like evolve and find their own way of getting their entertainment and processing it however they want. So so be it. But again, like I said, with the whole A24 model right now, sure, I don't see why not. Whether Cronenberg wants to go that way, I don't know. Because Crimes of the Future, it didn't really get a full on. It got kind of a strange release. It's like you almost didn't even know it was out there. But they just kind of dropped it a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens next. But it's certainly possible. But maybe he'll turn around and do like another art film like Spider. Who knows?
And what's your favorite Cronenberg sequel?
Sequel?
You've got the Scanner sequels, and you've got the Fly too.
Scanners and the Fly. We don't have Videodrome 2. I would love to see that.
Have you seen Scanner Cop?
I have seen Scanner Cop. I like Scanner Cop a lot.
Masterpiece.
I actually really like Scanners 2. I think that one's actually a little underrated. Scanners 2 is quite good. Scanner Cop is great.
Yeah.
I mean, just for sheer popcorn value, I have a really soft spot for The Fly 2 because I saw that like in high school with a bunch of buddies, and we just had such a great time. I mean, it's a really stupid movie, but it's so much fun. I mean, it's like the polar opposite of the first film. It doesn't really have anything to say about anything, but it's just a fun kind of roller coaster movie with just lots of gooey, special effects. Actually, no, I think probably maybe Scanner Cop actually is probably the best of them. I might have to go with that one, but The Fly 2 is the one that's kind of near and dear to me.
The director of Scanner Cop, Pierre David, is Ottawa based, and he makes Hallmark movies here.
Yeah,
and I lit his cigarette once on set. That's.
You tell me, a Scanner Cop fan.
I didn't even know he directed movies. He produced movies for Cronenberg. He produced The Brood.
Yeah. Scanners.
It's Scanners. Yeah. Scanners and Videodrome. Crazy. Yeah. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
I just see this like revered figure who wants his cigarette lighter. Okay, I have a lighter.
Yeah, the interviews he's been doing on his release lately have been a lot of fun, like on the Scanner Cop set and everything.
It's good stuff. So Nathaniel, what do you got? Thanks a lot for your time. It's always fun to talk to you. And
Mhm.
we went down the Cronenberg alley. That was a good time.
Yeah,
What do you have
anytime.
planned for the future?
Well, audio commentaries galore.
Hmm.
I just recorded 2 yesterday.
Oh my
It never
God.
stopped. Yeah, yeah, it's never ending. Got a lot more in the pipeline. I just had a book come out last fall, so I'm still promoting that one, The Price Guide to Vampire Movies. So that's
Nice.
available from all bookstores everywhere. I'm sure I'll have another book coming out pretty soon. I don't know what it'll be yet, but I'm sure it'll be coming around the pike probably some point later this year. Um, yeah, so we'll see. I'd love to do another Shutter series. I've been on 2 of those, in the last couple of years. So we'll see if that happens. Maybe we'll do a sequel
Oh,
to 101 Scariest movie, horror movie moments of all time. Maybe we'll do another one of those. I don't know. We'll see.
cool. All right. Well, everybody check out Nathaniel Thompson. He's super fun.
Yeah, thank you. And go to mondo-digital.com. That's my website.
True.
Oh yeah, the Mondo Digital. It's turning 25 in 2
Oh,
weeks. 25 years
damn.
old.
All
Yeah,
right. Well, thanks a lot for your time, man.
yeah, anytime. Great talking to you.
Likewise.